Hello and welcome to Spectrum News at 12. I am Janice Kobum, coming to you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria. Let's take a look at the headlines. President Buhari gets Senate's approval for 10 national parks. Rep says federal government $22 billion loan request rejected by Chinese bank. Plus, Ukraine says it shot down a Russian bomber aircraft near Bakhmut. We will bring you details of these stories and more in a moment. A very good afternoon to you, and thank you so much for joining us once again on the News at 12. We begin this afternoon from the Red Chambers, where the Senate has approved the request of President Muhammadu Buhari to establish 10 new national parks across the country. The Senate's resolution followed the consideration and approval of a motion on the National Park Declaration Order 22, sponsored by the Senate leader Ibrahim Gobe. Gobe explained that Buhari had written to the Senate on November 16, 2022, requesting the concurrence of the Senate to the National Park Declaration Order 2022 in consonance with Section 18 of the National Park Service Act 2004. He said the National Park Declaration Order seeks to establish 10 additional national parks based on due feasibility studies and environmental impact assessment in 12 selected forest and game reserves in various states of the Federation. He listed the parks to include the Alawa National Parks, Niger State, Apio National Park, Bayelsa State, Idumenum National Park, Bayelsa State, Galgora National Park, Kano State, Hadejia Westland National Park, Jigawa State, among others. And moving away from that, the federal government has given the assurance that the transition of power from President Muhammadu Buhari to the President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu would be smooth and peaceful. This was as the government said the refurbishment of offices for the President and Vice President-elect had been completed. Addressing journalists in Abuja, the chairman of the Transition Committee, Bas Mustafa, stressed that litigation would not stop the handing over ceremony from taking place. Mustafa noted that the Security Subcommittee had been saddled with the responsibility to ensure no one truncates the handing over.
As far as the Presidential Transition Council is concerned, and that's the essence of our setting up the various committees. The inauguration committee, which has responsibility for the processes of the inauguration, the swearing in, the parades, the activities preceding the formal handover of power. The Security Facilities and Intelligence Committee has the responsibility to ensure that nothing happens to truncate the process. So I can give you every form of assurance that Nigerians are very law-abiding people. Whoever has lost an election, we have provided for avenues for those people to ventilate whatever legal inquiry they want to do. But the process will continue unabated, and I can assure you that we are putting everything in place to ensure that the formal processes of handover takes place, and we do not create any political or constitutional crisis. 29th of May 2023 is D-Day.
And from the Green Chambers, the House of Representatives has approved the request by the federal government to borrow over $973 million from China Development Bank. This followed the decision by the China Exim Bank to reject Nigeria's $22 billion loan request earlier approved by the National Assembly. The chairman of the House Committee on Rules and Business, Abubakar Fulata, moved the motion for the Legislative Chamber to amend its resolution granting approval for the failed loan deal. Moving the motion, Fulata said the House noted that the 2016 to 2018 federal government external borrowing rolling plan was approved by the Senate and the House of Representatives on March 5, 2020 and June 2, 2020, respectively. Meanwhile, the House of Representatives has passed for second reading a bill seeking to prevent lopsidedness in the appointment of persons as chairman and secretary of the Federal Character Commission (FCC). Reports say when the bill proposal becomes law, it will make it impossible for the chairman and secretary of the FCC to come from the two regions, north and south of the country. A lawmaker, Onyema Yidem, who is representing Ukanafon and Uruganam Federal Constituency in Akwa Ibom State, while leading the debate on the bill, recalled that the legislation was read for the first time on July 15, 2021. He noted that the bill seeks to amend the provisions of the Act to reinstate the position that two critical positions to be appointed by the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria be expressly and mandatorily from each region of the country for the effective running and administration of the objectives of setting up of the Commission. And still from the Green Chambers now, the House of Representatives has urged the relevant ministries, departments and agencies of the federal government to apply a doctrine of necessity in the reintegration of Nigerian students evacuated from Ukraine following the invasion of the Eastern European country by Russia. At the plenary, the House particularly urged the Federal Ministry of Education, National Universities Commission, Joint Admission and Matriculation Board and the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria to ensure a seamless continuation of their education in Nigeria. The House also recommended that for other levels 1 to 5, the Federal Ministry of Education, JAMB, and the NUC are to ensure that the students are accommodated in the appropriate levels. We move now to a separate development where the Special Investigative Panel on Oil Theft and Losses in Nigeria has submitted its report to the National Security Advisor Babagana Mungono in Abuja. The head Strategic Communication Office of the National Security Advisor, Zakari Usman, in a statement noted that prompt implementation of the report would not only create an immediate impact on crude oil production levels to meet the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries OPEC quota, but would also attract foreign direct investment and serve Nigeria's economic and national security concerns. While submitting the report, the chairman of the panel, Barry Ndiomu, said the panel engaged key stakeholders from within and outside the oil and gas industry, including state governments, ministries, departments and agencies, security agencies, regulatory agencies, international and indigenous oil companies, traditional institutions, host communities, artisanal refineries, among others. Moving away from that, the Federal Road Safety Corps (FRSC) has commenced a process for the prosecution of the drivers involved in both the Liba and Bunza accidents in Kebbi State, which led to the loss of many lives and victims sustaining varying degrees of injuries. The Corps said it was a decision to protect the rights of passengers and as well to serve as a deterrent to other traffic violators. The Corps spokesperson BC Kasim said in a statement that the Corps Marshal Daudu Biu decried the continuous violation of traffic rules and regulations by some drivers, noting that their recklessness on highways had destroyed properties and loss of lives. He added that the FRSC bus had also ordered a nationwide clampdown on such violators. In another development, the Minister for Youth and Sports Development, Sunday Dare, has disclosed that a reform bill which has been submitted to President Muhammadu Buhari for assent will see the injection of 14 billion naira into the National Youth Service Corps. The minister made this known during his welcome address at the opening ceremony of the 2023 Annual Management Conference held in Abuja. Dare, who congratulated the management of the NYSC ahead of the scheme's 50th anniversary, said discussions on reforms had to top the agenda of the conference, noting that the bill could not have come at a better time. The minister called on the management of the scheme to ensure that it paid attention to the core members' needs, adding that the youth of the country are important. On petroleum matters now, the Petroleum Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, PENGASN, has called on the federal government to stop subsidizing premium motor spirits, popularly called petrol. It also called on the government to ensure the speedy rehabilitation of Nigeria's refineries, stressing that it would help ease the hardship that could arise from the halt of fuel subsidy. PENGASN's president Festus Osifo disclosed this while speaking with journalists at the National Executive Council of a meeting of the association in Abuja. He explained that functional local refineries would not only increase the country's revenue base but provide more job opportunities as well as end the uncertainties in the fuel subsidy administration and product importation. Away from that, the Nigerian Air Force has dismissed an online notification of admission into National Diploma and Higher National Diploma nursing programs for the 2023-2024 academic session at NAF School of Medical Sciences and Aviation Medicine, Kaduna. The Director, Public Relations and Information, NAF, Ayodele Famuyiwa, in a statement described the online admission notification as spurious and fraudulent. Famuyiwa said the advert signed by an impostor, Anike Obina, asking unsuspecting members of the public to pay a non-refundable fee of 15,000 naira for the purchase of admission form was fake. According to him, the fraudster also provided 2 fake telephone numbers for inquiries in an effort to legitimize the illicit act. And over now to Africa, where Kenya's President William Ruto has condemned the opposition protests that turned violent and led to the damage of property, including the invasion of a farm belonging to former President Uhuru Kenyatta's family. Addressing Kenyans living in Berlin, Ruto said he would not allow impunity to be part of the country's discourse. He vowed for Kenyans and business by giving the police the independence of enforcing law and order in the country. Meanwhile, religious leaders have also condemned the attack, urging politicians to consider dialogue and preach peace. Recall that veteran opposition leader Raila Odinga had accused the state of sponsoring violence so that protests degenerated into chaos and led to death. Odinga said the opposition will not relent with their agitation for a review of the 2022 elections, constitution of the Electoral Commission, and addressing the rising in the cost of living.
Ruto's hands are all over this violence. When Azimio La Umoja called for protests in line with Article 37 of our Constitution, we never envisaged that in desperation, the state will respond by hiring goons and mercenaries to rain terror on peaceful and innocent Kenyans. How does Ruto go to Germany and talk about attracting German foreign investment to Kenya, knowing very well that back at home, he has put in place a much...
Meanwhile, the United States has urged all political sides in Kenya to refrain from violence and security forces to act with restraint during protests, State Department Deputy Spokesman Vedant Patel said the U.S. regretted the loss of life and damage to property in the recent protests, adding that the right to peaceful assembly was a core aspect of democracy. On the foreign scene now, Ukrainian Defense Ministry says its anti-aircraft missile units have shot down a Russia Su-24 meters bomber near the eastern city of Bakhmut today. The report comes as Ukraine's Deputy Defense Minister Anna Malia said the country will defend Bakhmut as long as the country needs it in terms of military defense task. Malia said on Telegram that the battle for Bakhmut is not an apocalypse, but another heroic page in the war against Russia Federation by the powerful Ukrainian army. In the meantime, power supply is reportedly disconnected in the occupied city of Melitopol in southern Ukraine after it was shelled by Ukrainian forces earlier today. A member of Council of the pro-Russian military-civilian administration in the Zaporizhia region, Vladimir Rugov, said on Telegram that power supply was suspended in Melitopol and some nearby settlements as a result of the shelling by Kyiv. Rugov added that the shelling came from HIMARS and there were no casualties recorded, but emergency services are carrying out restoration work for power supply. And still to come in the news. Messi passed 100 goals for Argentina with hat-trick against Curacao. Just stay with us. Many thanks for still being there. Now to the rest of our stories. And business news, the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has barred banks and other financial institutions seeking a conversion license from expanding or reducing their current banking network. The CBN disclosed this in a circular titled Regulatory Guidelines for Change of Operational License for Banks and Other Financial Institutions, OFI, in Nigeria. The draft, signed by the Director, Financial Policy and Regulation Department, Chibuzo Ifobi, stated that under the guidelines, prohibitions and restrictions shall be applied to eligible banks and financial institutions applying for conversion or recategorization. Meanwhile, the CBN stated that due to increasing requests from financial institutions to either upgrade or convert to other license administration, the draft guidelines aims to provide clarity to eligible financial institutions on regulatory requirements. And still in business, the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited (NNPC) has announced that the ongoing oil exploration in Nigeria's Frontiers Basin is to grow the country's crude oil reserves from 37 billion barrels, to 50 billion barrels. NNPC also commenced the official drilling for crude oil in Ebenyi, a well in Obi local government area of Nasarawa State, and stated that the well would support in hitting the 50 billion barrel oil reserves target. The group chief executive officer, Mela Kiari, said that the oil firm had moved a drilling rig to the location and was optimistic of boosting Nigeria's daily oil output to about 3 million barrels. He noted that the mobilization for re-entry into the Chad Basin had commenced, as directed by President Muhammadu Buhari, adding that the oil company was making progress in other activities in the frontier basins. We move to health now, where the Nigeria Center for Disease Control and Prevention (NCDC) says death toll from Lassa fever in Nigeria so far this year has risen to 142. The NCDC, in its 11th week Lassa fever situation report, said there had been a total of 784 confirmed cases recorded from 23 states and 97 local government areas since the beginning of the year. Meanwhile, a total of 3,826 suspected cases were recorded from January to March 19, 2023. With the current death toll, the public health institution noted that the case fatality ratio of the outbreak stood at 18.1%. It added that the predominant age group affected in the country is 21 to 30 years, with the male-to-female ratio for confirmed cases being 10:9. And still in health, the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control (NAFDAC) has warned Nigerians not to use unapproved cosmetics as a result of the dangers associated to it. The Director General NAFDAC, Mojisola Adeyeye, who was represented by Dr. Leonard Omokwariola, Director, Drug Evaluation and Research, gave the warning during the media sensitization workshop on the dangers of bleaching creams and regulatory controls for South-South journalists in Port Harcourt. Adeyeye said the menace of unapproved cosmetics such as bleaching creams in Nigeria had become a national health emergency that required a multi-phased regulatory approach. According to him, unapproved cosmetics use banned and toxic chemicals to achieve skin lightening effects that leave the user with undesirable effects, noting that some of the harmful effects of bleaching creams include cancer and damage to vital organs of the body like the kidney and liver. And now to sports, where Argentina captain Lionel Messi has passed 100 international goals as he scored his 7th international hat-trick in a friendly win at home to Curacao. The 35-year-old forward reached the landmark when he opened the scoring on 20 minutes in Santiago del Estero. He added 2 more before the break to complete a quick-fire treble. Chelsea midfielder Enzo Fernandez also scored before Argentina paraded the World Cup trophy in front of more than 42,000 supporters. It was Argentina's second match on home soil since beating France in Qatar in penalties in December to win the World Cup. Recall that Messi scored his 800th career goal and 99th for Argentina in a 2-0 win over Panama in Buenos Aires last week as part of the team's World Cup homecoming tour. The Paris Saint-Germain striker reached 3 figures for his country when he took a pass from Villarreal's on a lone Tottenham Hotspur midfielder Giovanni Lo Celso and fired a low shot into the bottom corner. He remains third on the men's all-time international scoring list behind Portugal's Cristiano Ronaldo, 122, and Iran's Ali Daei, 109. And still in sports now, Turkey played their first home international fixture since 2 powerful earthquakes in the country claimed 50,000 lives. A giant banner paying tribute to those affected was unveiled before kickoff in the Euro 2024 qualifier against Croatia in Istanbul. Chelsea's Mateo Kovacic scored twice to secure the win for the visitors. The midfielder struck from close range before firing in from a rebound on the stroke of half-time. It was a little harsh on Turkey, but who had started the game as the better side. Meanwhile, the win means Croatia are second in Euro 2024, qualifying Group D, level on 4 points with Wales. And a quick one now on entertainment news. Nigerian Idol is set to return to the 8th season in April 2023. MultiChoice Nigeria announced the show and judges return at the media launch in the company's multi-purpose Lagos studio. According to them, popular TV personality Ike Sakadowa will be returning as the show's host for the third time alongside Obi Asika, who will be also judging his third season. Superstar singer, songwriter Simi and multi-award-winning entertainer D'banj are also back for a second time, ensuring the band stays together. And finally, on the news this afternoon, Prime Video has released the official trailer for Jad Osiberu's crime thriller, Gangs of Lagos. Set in Isale Eko, Lagos, the trailer sets the stage for a gritty tale of survival involving three childhood friends, Oba, Lola, Gift, and Ifi, as they navigate your destiny in a bustling city. Led by Toby Bakare, the action-packed film features Adeswai Tommy Wellington, Chike, Bimbo Ademoye, Olarotimi Fakunle, Choma Chukwuka, Iyabojo, Zlatan, and Mr. Macaroni, amongst others. And that's all we have for you on the news at this time. Do well to follow us on all our social media handles and ensure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website at spectrumtv.ng. You have been watching Spectrum News at 12. My name is Janice Cobham. Do have a great afternoon.